Hey, it's your girl Christy Angeli, bringing you your dose of What's Your I Can, where I create the space for you to realize your I can in purpose, business, and family. So, what I want to do is kind of look into the word great and expectation, and then I'm going to put them together and give some real life stories. We're going to really see how we can become so overwhelmed with the expectations of greatness, trying to pursue our career goals, trying to be the best mommy, trying to be the best father, trying to be the best co-worker, trying to be the best friend, trying to uphold the expectations of others and even ourselves, because sometimes we have an idea of how we want to be a part of someone else's life, how we want to be a mother, how we want to be a father, how we want to be a friend. We want to be the greatest friend that we could possibly be, and sometimes our expectations doesn't really line up to our reality, you guys. Our expectations doesn't always line up to our reality, and that can cause a major setback. It could cause a major um it could cause us to feel as if we are not moving, if we're not progressing, if we are just spinning our tires. It can cause us to really feel like we are hopeless and helpless, and it feels like we are just stuck when we come to that wall where our expectations, come on now, meets reality. Our expectations meet reality. What do we do? How do we overcome? How do we continue to put our feet in the ground and stay planted when our expectations meet reality? And the reality is that sometimes we may not just be all there. We may not have everything that we feel like we need in order to pursue. We don't have everything that we feel like we need to be a part or feel valuable. Sometimes we may feel like we're not good enough, we're not worth it, we're not worthy. It may feel like what we're trying to plant is not good enough because we sometimes can compare it with other people, and we look and see how other people are faring, and then that alone causes great expectations, you guys. That alone can cause us to feel as if we are not fit to even run this race, to even stand next to someone who may not have a degree, but they just got their stuff together, because we looking at ourselves and looking at what we come from and where we've been and where we're trying to go, and it isn't adding up. It really isn't adding up, and it can cause us to want to run into a cave somewhere. It could cause us to become an introvert. It can cause us, when there's nothing wrong with introverts, don't get me wrong, but it can cause us to go into a place where it's not our character. We start to operate that in a way that is not even becoming of who we are, our character, and it begins to show around others, and they begin to wonder what really happened. And what and what really happened was great expectations, the weight of the waiting, the weight, weight, of the wait, wait, waiting to exceed, waiting to succeed, waiting to become, waiting to, just reach that next level, the greater that's coming, waiting to reach our destiny, to pursue purpose the way we see it, the way we envision it. So the weight broke us. The weight caused us to run like a scared little dog with the tail between its leg, because the dog was so confident until it came up to a challenge to where he thought he was prepared, and he met reality, and reality said that I'm better than you. That's what it seems to say. Reality said that you don't have it all together. Reality to you or to me is saying that what you're trying to pursue, what you're trying to achieve, man, that's beyond you. Why even try? You're no good. You're not cut out for that. But I come to let you know that right in the middle of that negative talking, you have an I can. Like I said, I wanted to go and break down these words, okay? So, can I do that for a moment? Can I break these words down so we can really dig into the very essence, into the very core of great expectation? Not only are we going to dig into the word great expectation, but we are also going to look at what causes failure in expectations. I kind of dabbled in that already. How do you come back from failed expectations? So those are the things, the two questions I have that we're going to take a look into. And I really, really want you to look into where you are, what you have going on, and what you have allowed to consume you, to overwhelm you, to cause you to fail, to cause you to fall. Maybe it was the words of someone else who you may have looked up to, but they said something that caused you to kind of like, they were expecting so much more from you. They were looking at you and they wanted more. And then when you presented them your idea, they shot it down. Okay, so let's look into this word. The first word is going to be great, of an extent, amount, or intensity, considerably above the normal or average. Considerably above the normal or average. Average. Our next word is going to be expectations. A strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. A belief that someone will or should achieve something. A belief that someone will or should achieve something. Let's look at that of expectations. Or should achieve something that someone just said, I just feel like, or you just should do this, or I believe that you have to do this, or I expect for you to do this. I expect for you to go to college and get a degree. I expect for you to follow after your father's footstep. I expect you should work in the family's business. You should be this type of child. You should be this type of adult. You should. That is a great expectation when someone say that you should, and there go all of the weight of it all in the expectancy of what you should be. And now you are carrying that since you were a child, and they're forming you and you're making you and molding you, talking to you about the business trade, talking to you about family expectations, talking to you about going to college, talking to you about getting married. You should be married by now. You should be. You should have become this by now. You should have overcame this by now. You should be healed by now. You should be over that by now. You should have already known better. You should. Listen, there's a lot of shoulds. There's a lot of expectations upon us when people look on the outside, looking into our life. I'm a single mom. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I am a single mom. And the way that people look upon single moms and say, you should, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. This is what that you should, this, all of this expectation of a single mom. You should put your children first. I put my children first. You should not go here, or you should take this type of job because you should think about your kids. You should. If I were I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. This is what you should do. I know you've heard this before. You don't have to be a single mom just to hear these words. You can be a student. You should make these type of grades. You should go to this college. You should get this type of job. You could be a pastor. I'm going to talk about some as much as I can. Relate as much as I can to each and every one of you. You should be a lawyer. You should raise your children this way. You should behave in this manner. Oh, you shouldn't do this because this is who you are. So this is how you should behave. The expectancy, the great expectations. But what happens when the expectations get so great to where you break under the weight of the expectations? Sometimes the expectations is not just those things that someone else put upon you, but those things that, like I stated earlier, of what we expect of ourselves. Maybe we expect those things because somebody has already told us what we should be doing. Listen, I just want you to know and realize your I can. When I found myself, my children and I, we were in a women's shelter. We moved so much. We one women's shelter after the next women's shelter, and we finally came to this women's shelter, and I just after a while I just laid out in the floor and I cried. I cried my eyes out. I cried and I cried because I was expecting by now to be in a certain place. I was expecting by now for me to be healed. I was expecting by now for me to have overcome and for me to be able to move past the hurt, to move past the disappointment, to move past the pain. So the expectation, and then I was expecting by now for God to have moved in a certain way. I was expecting what we when it just the expectancy of it all. So I was in the middle of the floor. We stayed in a one room, and it was a nice size home that we were living in, and we stayed in one room. My children, we had three beds in one room, and my children had gone to school, and there I was trying to figure out how to get out, not settled within, because I'm like, this is not me. There was so much more to me. I started a business before I got into the women's shelter. I started a event planning company, and I still have that event planning company. This is not a plug-in, but I'm just trying to tell you where I was and what I was doing, and the reality of things. The reality of where I was, not what I was expecting, but the reality of things slapped me in the face, and I was on that floor and I cried. I was crying. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be healed. I'm supposed to be in this type state of mind. I'm supposed to be ABC, and then listening to other, well, you should move up, and all this of these should. And then what I heard, and when I was praying, I heard the voice of God. He asked me Philippians 4:13. And it said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. You know what? At that very moment, that still didn't mean nothing to me. It didn't mean a thing to me because I was like, okay, I know that. I hear that. I heard that when I was a child growing up. Okay, what can I do? And that was the question that became my mantra, my motto. Christy, what's your I can? And I began to think about that thing. I began to meditate on that. I began to ponder on that. And I began to use that as my fuel, not to try to get out, but to learn what I can do while I was in it. To learn what I can do while I was faced with what I was faced with. What's my I can? What can I do? At this moment, I can be hurt. It was baby steps for me to learning my I can. I wasn't the expectation of the situation and what I saw, what I needed to be doing. It was so great. It was so great. But I started to bite this or eat it with a fork and a knife. My mom would always say, how do you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. So I had to break this thing down into digestible pieces that I can take so I can heal, so I can be able to think clearly and move in a way that will bring the expectations that I had into my actual reality. So I began to say, I can cry. It's okay for me to be hurt. It's okay for me to be mad. It's okay for me to be right here. I can be right here. I can be hurt. I can do this. I can. Christy, what's your I can? It doesn't have to look like the next person. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to operate in the same faction as the next person because that's theirs. I had to realize, Christy, that's their I can. That's what, yes, I can do all things. So sometimes we take up on ourselves. We try to, oh, I can handle this. I can do this. I can be superwoman. I can be Superman and da da da. And we take it on and then we put all of this on us because we can do that. We feel like we can do that. But sometimes it's you baby steps. Right now, what I can do, I know I'm a businesswoman. I know I'm an entrepreneur. I know I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur enricher. I know this is who I am. But right now, at this moment, what is it that I can do? Christy, what's your I can? Stop living under the expectations of everyone else, of everything else, of the society and what people are saying, oh, you should be doing this, or oh, this is what you need to do, or this is stop living under what everybody else says that you need to be doing in this point in time and find out what you can do in order for you to be successful, in order for you to have some sort of peace of mind, in order for you to allow your reality to catch up with you. So you don't have to live. And some people think that the reality, oh, this is my reality. No, it doesn't have to be so. Bad luck doesn't have to be your reality. Misfortune doesn't have to be your reality. Financial disturbances does not have to be your reality. This is just my reality. This is just the way it is for me. This is the cards I've been dealt with. I refuse to believe that. And I don't believe that. Just because we are placed in an environment or in a situation that has dealt us a bad hand does not mean that has to be the hand that we continue to play with. We have to learn what's your I can. Sometimes we can, as they say, fake it until we make it. Bluff, when you're playing poker, you bluff and all those things just to throw other people off your scent to make it seem like you got better cards than you do have, and you can actually win with an awful pair of hand. You can win if you know how to play the hand that you have been dealt. If you learn how to work what you have been given, realizing your I can right there in the midst of great expectations. So, what causes failure in expectations? What causes failure in expectation? What causes failure in expectations? And when you begin to put on the weight of everyone else, of everything else, when you don't know who you are, when you're listening to everyone else, when you're trying to, okay, I'm going to do this, and you're seeking to please everybody else. You're seeking to please society and keep up and conforming to what the world says and the expectations. Oh, I got to get the latest phone. I got to get the latest hairstyle. I got to get the latest shoes. I got to get this. All of those things. And I got to have this in the bank. I got to have, when the expectations that you're trying to live up to is greater than where you are. How do you come back from failed expectations? Okay, I'm going to give you my 3 strategies of coming back from failed expectations. My 3 strategies. 1, ask yourself, what's your I can? 2, apply your I can. And 3, protect, set boundaries around your I can.